My name is Bailey Specht. I'm currently a senior at Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm from Rockport, New York, which is upstate near the border. My hobbies include baking, reading. I like to create my own stationery and urban exploring. And I think that I make an exceptional candidate for the Tulane Dietetic Internship because of my experience in the culinary industry. I have 4 years of culinary experience at Johnson & Wales, as well as work experience in kitchens in public health settings. I'd like to be a dietetic intern at Tulane because while I was doing my senior internship experience at the Goldring Center for Culinary Medicine in New Orleans, I got to meet a lot of dietetic interns who are currently enrolled in the Tulane program. And with meeting them and talking to them and learning more about the program and learning more about the city, I absolutely fell in love. I expect to work very hard at in the internship. With all of the rotations, I know that it'll be very fast-paced and very work-intensive, but I'm excited by the challenge and look forward to it, especially since as a person with culinary experience, I'm used to working in fast-paced environments and adapting quickly. From this experience, I hope to obtain not only experience, but also exposure to the various types of work we'll be doing within the rotations. I'm incredibly excited by all of the different community experiences, as well as the medical nutrition therapy experience with the bariatric surgery. I've heard a lot about that. I'm very excited. I'm hoping to obtain from this more a sense of specialization. I have so much that I'm interested in right now, and I'm not sure what I would like to be doing in the future, and I'm hoping that I can figure it out more as we go. I want to be an RD because I've known so many people growing up who have struggled with issues with food, not only with their weight, but also with feeding and preparing food for themselves. And I've thought that I wanted to do this through cooking. That's initially why I went to culinary school. But then as I learned about the nutrition program and I learned about becoming a dietitian, I saw that this was more what I was interested in doing. I would love to work with people and help them come to love food as much as I do and see it as just something fun and exciting and not just a chore. In 5 years, I'd like to be working in a clinic or teaching classes to communities. I'm more interested in community wellness and education, especially working one-on-one with clients who want to change but are not quite sure how to start. In my first job, I experienced an uncomfortable situation. I had a coworker who was making unwanted advances towards me, and I tried to resolve it by speaking frankly with them, and it worked to an extent, but they didn't quite get the idea that I was trying to get across to them, and I then took it to my manager, who helped me completely get the message across. I made sure to let the other person involved know that it was not a hard feelings kind of thing. And I think that the best way to resolve uncomfortable situations in the workplace, especially in an internship type setting where you are changing rotations so often, is just to be clear and concise and to communicate, because people can't read your mind, and if you're uncomfortable, the only way to let somebody else know is to tell them. When I prepare for an exam, I usually start a couple of weeks ahead of time at least, depending on the exam, sometimes more, especially for advanced medical nutrition therapy. I usually create note cards for myself, like flashcards, trying to narrow in on what were the most important concepts to understand. I will also rewrite my notes, and if there's anything that I don't understand, I'll go to YouTube or other sources to try and see someone else teach it and see if maybe it was just an issue with how it was being communicated to me, and usually that'll help. In a culture and food class I took sophomore year, I had a teacher who would not call on me for some reason. I showed up to class every day, I turned in all of the assignments, but whenever she asked a question to the class, she would never call on me. She always called on the person behind me, so I knew she saw me, but she just, for some reason, would not acknowledge me. And my grades started to reflect that, as she wouldn't give me any participation points. But I handled this by just showing up to class and continuing to try and continuing to make it so it was impossible for her to ignore me until I was participating and she was calling on me. It was just more of I had to be there and make my way in to make it happen. I think that I'm better at working at many things at one time rather than a few specific things. I like to have a couple of different projects going and switch between them as I get frustrated or bored or stressed, or if I feel that my attention is flagging and I'm not paying it the most attention that I could be, I'll switch to the next task until I eventually get them all done. And to do this, I have to obviously schedule and plan what I'm going to do so that I don't leave anything to the last minute. I hate to procrastinate. I'm the kind of person who will usually have my homework done a few days ahead of time. At my first job, which was in a senior home in the kitchen, I had a manager who would tell me to do something, a cleaning task. She would tell me a specific way to do it, and I would do it that way. And then she would come back an hour later and be like, oh, you didn't do this thing that I never told you to do. She liked to make up rules and to make it seem as though I wasn't doing my job to my fullest ability. And everyone else noticed that they were doing this, so it wasn't as though it was negatively affecting my performance review. It was just frustrating, and honestly, I dealt with it by just being there and doing my best and being as cheerful as possible, because I knew she wasn't doing it on purpose. She did it to a couple of other people too. It was just her personality. And I communicated that I didn't know that this was a rule. Like, I would tell her that I hadn't understood that that was a requirement of me, but then I would do the task anyways with a smile. I think that it's important to respect authority in a situation like that and to just do your best.